Welcome back. We're starting where we left off on the last tutorial video from scale, rotate, and flip. So I have oceans open, and I also have a new layer with squiddly diddly on it right there. So if you didn't get this far, you didn't save this, go back to that last tutorial and create this layer. I also have railing.jpg, which we'll add to our composition in a minute. So I want to rename these layers. It's a good idea that when you make new layers, you name them. Makes them easier to figure out later. It's not so bad when you have 2 layers, but when you have 102 layers, it can get a little crazy. So I'm going to double click on the word layer 0, and I'll call this one ocean, and hit return to accept that. And then I'm going to change squiddly diddly's layer. Double click that, and he's going to be SD. Okay, let's take a look at Squiddly Diddly's layer. Squiddly Diddly has a layer mask that we don't see anymore because we made it into a smart object. A smart object just means that this is a Photoshop file embedded inside of a Photoshop file. If I want to get into this Photoshop file to edit Squiddly Diddly's mask or anything else, I just simply double click it and we'll open another window. So I'm double clicking it, and here's the new Squiddly Diddly layer with its layer mask. So if I wanted to make edits to the layer mask or do something to this Photoshop file, add new layers, I can do that here. I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to close it. The reason I'm showing you this is the full resolution Squiddly Diddly. Over here, we made him small. So if we would have made him small without making him a smart object, we'd have thrown a lot of data away. And if I made Squiddly Diddly bigger again, he would be very smushy because he lost a lot of pixels. Over to the railing. I'm on railing and I want to outline the railing. I'm going to use the magic wand tool, but I'm going to click on the background since it's the flattest color rather than click on this stuff. And if I click, I have my tolerance set to 30. If I click back here in the white area and I have contiguous turned on, which it is by default, it stops at the edge of the white. In other words, it doesn't see all the white in the image. It just stops in this one area. So if I hold down Shift and click here to get all of this white area selected, I would have to click a whole bunch of times. So I'm going to Command D to deselect, and I'm going to turn contiguous off. And when I click here, it gets all that white area. The background is selected right now, so I'm going to select and inverse, Shift Command I, and then I'm going to add a mask by pushing on the Add a Mask button. Alright, so there's my transparency. I'm going to drag now this over to the ocean layer, and then still holding the button down, drag it and let it go here. Well, look, now we have a raft. So I'm going to use the Move tool, and I'm going to zoom out a couple of times. So Command minus, so we can see what's going on here. And I have this area. Now, the perspective doesn't look correct for this layer right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform it and change the perspective. But first, let's make this into a smart object as we have in the past. So I'm going to right click, choose Convert to Smart Object. I'm going to double click on the name and change it to deck. Okay. So if I go to edit, so I'm going to click on that. And I want to kind of make this flatter and change the perspective so that it's not so wide angle. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do that. I want to make it a little bit shorter to start with, so I'm going to drag this down. But if I do that without holding down Shift, it makes everything the same size. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to drag this down a little bit, about like that. Now to get these edges so that those all kind of face up instead of out, I'm going to click in the middle of this and choose perspective, and then I'm going to drag the lower right hand corner or left hand corner away from the image and see how that works. So I'm going to go about right there, and I like what that looks like, so I'm going to say OK, and then I'm just going to move it down on the horizon a little bit. Don't throw this away. We're going to add a couple more things to it. Keep watching. Get smarter.